This episode, we wanted to take time to address the devastating fires that we've had here in Los Angeles.
We're going to be sharing some helpful information on how to navigate recovery post-fires. We don't want to waste any time, so let's get started.
This tragedy affected us, Sorry, it's just really heavy.
Yeah, it affected so many people. My family was directly impacted by the Eaton fire.
Yeah.
You know, we lost a family home that had been in the family for so long. Thankfully, everyone is safe, and that's what's important. But a lot of family history was lost.
Yeah. No, it was definitely a very, very stressful time, and we were each other's safety nets.
Yes, with alternating evacuation warnings.
Oh, yeah. So our evacuation warning was over here, and they were getting the house ready for us, and we were getting the house ready for them, and it was
one night we were prepping to host you. Literally the next night you were prepping to host us.
Yeah, and it just kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Oh, man.
An incredibly stressful time. But thankfully the fires are pretty much contained now, which is why we wanted to do this episode to talk about ways that you can stay safe, things to think about and keep in mind as Los Angeles begins to rebuild.
Yeah, I completely agree. We wanted to bring up ways to stay safe in the wakes of the fire, and as a lot of people are aware of, we wanted to reiterate, and if you don't know, we're here to tell you, a lot of health problems will result because of these fires, and it may not be immediate, but it will be long-term.
Absolutely. We've heard from so many medical professionals, various sources, that the chemicals that have been exposed to the environment as a result of buildings burning, as a result of cars burning, all these different things, the effect that will have on our bodies is probably not going to be seen overnight, but will have a long-term effect on our overall health.
Right, and so that's why we wanted to bring up some of the toxins that have been released, like asbestos, and asbestos affects houses built before 1980. Fiberglass is another one, where a toxin that has been released are the chemicals that were used to treat wood to prevent termites.
Mm-hmm. Before they started switching over to using salt water instead.
Yes, and then we also have lead in certain paints and plumbing that is all across LA. These are all things across LA that are now in the air, in the soil, everywhere. So this is really a time that we need to be masking. We need to be, we need to look out for ourselves.
Absolutely. One thing my family is doing to do our best to keep ourselves safe when we check out our property that has been burnt is we got painter's masks based on nurses' recommendations to properly filter the air that we're breathing in. So that way, more than just your regular KN95, your cloth mask, because you need those added layers of filtration to protect your lungs. And then another thing we're doing is we've purchased, this may sound silly, this may sound extreme, but we're taking our health seriously. We've purchased hazmat suits to wear when we go check out the site. So that way, any chemicals, any toxins that we pick up while we're walking around in that destruction won't be brought back home with us.
Yeah.
And into our home, into our everyday life.
Now, with the toxins and the harmful materials that were released due to the fires, we consulted a professional, my dad, and he has built most of the buildings here in LA. Mm-hmm. He had a hand in. Yeah, so we consulted him, and this is what he told us.
Yeah, and then we consulted another expert about soil, and he warned us that not only has the soil been contaminated, but as a result of the soil being contaminated, now that's affected local waterways. There are toxins now in local waterways, which sounds really scary and is scary. It's not a good thing that's happened. But he gave us some really valuable advice on how to prevent that in the future.
Yes.
Something to consider while we rebuild. And I know something that my family will be thinking about as we rebuild is in the future planting with native plants that have those deep root systems that aren't going to burn as easily. And it's so that way next time a fire comes, if it comes,
Yeah.
properties are better protected, the plants are better protected, the fire will not spread as quickly. Just important advice to keep in mind. And in terms of water consumption as well, native plants, their roots go deeper into the soil.
Yes.
So that leads to everything not being as dry and like crackly, you know, and prime kindling for fire.
Yeah. And one last thing to keep in mind in the wake of all the fires, we've also had a wake of rain.
Yes.
And something to keep in mind is that there's an increased risk of landslides. So now we have that to worry about as well.
Stay safe, everyone.
Yeah. Stay safe. We also wanted to talk about people getting taken advantage of with the price gouging post-fire. The Washington Post came out with an article talking about how rent in LA was raised around 20% in the wake of the fire, which is illegal.
Very illegal.
Very illegal. The legal limit is 10, which is absolutely crazy.
It's beyond insane to think that it's legal to exploit people taking advantage of their dire circumstances in the wake of a tragedy.
Yeah, I mean, we also saw that with insurance companies.
Yes.
Taking advantage of people in dire situations. And listen, this is an opinion. This is not a fact. I'm just stating what I feel. I believe that, and the insurance companies got wake of the Santa Ana winds coming, and they chose to pull the plug.
Yeah.
On a lot of vulnerable people.
Saying, oh, you've paid into this system, but when you need it most, we're actually not going to be able to give you what you've been paying for.
This was a complete failure on the administration's part. This was a complete failure on companies' parts. This was a complete failure on so many aspects.
So many.
And I do want to point out, this wasn't just one sole causation of these fires. This was a conglomeration of different problems that resulted in these horrific fires. It wasn't just climate change. In fact, to say that is inaccurate.
And disrespectful.
Yeah. This was mismanagement of funds. And when I say mismanagement of funds, I mean insurance companies.
Yeah.
So that is what I will say to that.
Absolutely. And we also wanted to share with you all, just in case you didn't know, if you do see price gouging, you can report it to the Los Angeles County Consumer and Business Affairs Bureau. Please do. If you see price gouging, it is illegal. Call it out, because people shouldn't be taken advantage of when they're at their most
vulnerable.
Thank you. Yeah. And just some advice. If you're rebuilding, if you're looking to find new housing in the wake of these fires, just compare the prices that you're being quoted with what is legal in California, what is legal in Los Angeles. And if things don't match up percentage-wise, report it. Don't get taken advantage of. Be smart with your money.
Yes. We will have a link on our website to the Los Angeles County Consumer and Business Affairs, where you can directly report these crimes.
As LA is recovering from these fires, something we wanted to talk about is the importance of giving to people directly, of providing that mutual aid, giving to mutual aid funds. And that's not to diminish the importance of organizations like the LA Food Bank or large charities like that. Not at all. But the most direct way you can help someone out as they recover, as they try to rebuild, is to give money to them directly. So that way there is no going through bureaucracy. That money goes straight to them.
Yes. And something that I want everyone to keep in mind when starting a GoFundMe is that FEMA, by law, cannot duplicate benefits.
Yeah.
So when you start a GoFundMe and you apply for FEMA benefits, they can deny you.
Yes.
And what they love to say on their website and how they want to do damage control with all of the media outlets talking about this is they want to have one of the first two searches results that come up. They want to have the words myth and rumor be the first things that you see. Now, our listeners are very smart.
Yes, yes, and we love them.
And we love them. And I don't want anyone getting fooled by this. Now, this is where reading comprehension skills really come into play, because they are trying to frame it as if that's not true. But as you read on their website, they are affirming all of the news outlets. They are affirming what everyone has been saying. So,
Yeah.
as someone that's in PR, you do this professionally.
Yeah, I work in communications, yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to get your insight on FEMA doing damage control like this.
Oh, it's blatantly obvious because it's a pretty well-known fact that most people don't actually read articles. They don't read much more than the headline when it comes to learning information. So for them to have myth and rumor be the wording in the top 2 results for when you search FEMA GoFundMe, it's strategy to try and help them repair their image and their reputation. But as you said, if you actually go and click the link, you'll see they say something is a myth, but then in the fact they actually affirm that what is being spread is true. And it's just purely damage control. From a professional perspective, it is blatantly obvious. But as you said, our listeners are smart, and it's probably pretty obvious to them as well.
Yeah. And if it isn't, we're here to help.
Exactly.
We are here to help. Something also I wanted to bring up is for a company and a government agency to care more about how they appear,
Yeah,
rather than helping the victims of this fire is an atrocity.
absolutely.
You should be spending your resources fixing your infrastructure rather than damage control. And that is what I will say on that.
That's very fair. I wholeheartedly agree. Recovering from this fire isn't something that LA is going to be able to do overnight. It may take months, it may take years for people to rebuild, to have homes again. You know, not just a place to live, but a home, and feel like they are more than just someone who is recovering from an emergency situation.
Yeah. This crisis won't be resolved overnight. And one thing I do want to leave our listeners with is the fires may be dwindling, but the fight isn't over. This is going to take years to rebuild.
Absolutely. So we want to ask you all, if you can, please continue to give. Give food, give clothes, give beauty supplies, things that help people feel like themselves, games, books, toys, things like that.
And a place that you can do that is Altadena Girls and Altadena Boys. Shout out to them. They've been doing incredible work. We will link them on our website.
We absolutely will. And we'll also find some for the Palisades fire as well. And something we also wanted to say is please be considerate with the donations that you're giving. So many donation centers have talked about how they've had to throw out bags full of clothes, full of bedding, just a bunch of supplies, because the supplies that were given were moldy, they were low quality, they weren't usable, or things that people could feel dignified taking and using. So when you're giving donations, make sure the things that you're giving, if you're giving clothes, they're gently used at most, new. When you're not giving someone half a bottle of shampoo. That's not kind.
No, it's not.
Yeah, so
it's not considerate.
Yeah, so just please be mindful. And again, this is going to be, like Sarah said, the fires are dwindling, but the fight isn't over. This is going to be a long fight to recover. So just continue showing up for your community in the way that LA has. And we should be so proud as a city of what we've done.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been prouder to be an Angelino. I know that for you too.
Especially because people love to talk trash about LA and the people who live here. And LA has this horrible stereotype that we're all shallow. But that's not true.
There's rich history here. There's communities. There's love. There's family. And it's full of culture. It's full of history.
Yeah. LA is such a wonderful place, and it's our home. And I know we love the city so much.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm proud of the way that the city has come together. We've shown, in the wake of this horrific tragedy, we have shown what the people of LA are made of.
Absolutely. Shout out LA.
LA forever.
So one last thing before we end this episode. If any of you have a GoFundMe that you want to get promoted, yours or someone that you know, or a Venmo you'd like to get promoted, please send us the links at our email at handballcourtradio@gmail.com.
We'll share the links on our website and on our Blue Sky. Once again, our email is handballcourtradio@gmail.com.
That's it for our episode. Thank you for listening. You can also check out our website at handballcourtradio.com for those resources we mentioned, and you can also follow us on Blue Sky at Handball Court Radio. And I've moved over to Blue Sky as well. You can find me at Sarah Livings-Walsh. Also, Anna didn't use Instagram, but she just made a Blue Sky.
I did! I'm not like Mona Lisa, because Analisa, but people always say it wrong, so they're like, oh, like Mona Lisa? The answer is no. It's not like Mona Lisa. So that's why my handle is not like Mona Lisa.
Iconic. And with that being said, I'm Sarah Livings-Walsh.
And I'm Analisa Venolia.
And this has been Revolution Report. We'll be back in 2 weeks with our regular scheduled programming. Play us out, Richie Ramone.
And stay strong, LA.